In the chaotic heart of Mogadishu, Somalia, a U.S. military convoy faced an arduous challenge, forced to weave through narrow alleys, constantly encountering obstacles erected by local militia. As the convoy struggled to advance, a crowd of Somali fighters began to gather, their eyes fixed on a Black Hawk helicopter hovering overhead, an all-too-obvious target. At 16:20, a loud explosion echoed as an RPG round slammed directly into the Black Hawk helicopter designated Super 61. Piloted by the skilled Chief Warrant Officers Cliff Walcott and Donovan Briley, the aircraft immediately lost control, spiraling in mid-air before plummeting to the ground. The horrific impact claimed the lives of both pilots instantly, while the remaining crew members also suffered serious injuries. Immediately, the mission's focus completely shifted. From a routine operation, it became a race against time for rescue, as U.S. forces swiftly diverted to the crash site. In the early 1990s, Somalia was gripped by a devastating famine, and all humanitarian aid efforts were continually hampered by fierce tribal conflicts. To address this situation, in 1992, the United States launched Operation Restore Hope, an ambitious peacekeeping mission aimed at bringing humanitarian aid to this ravaged African nation. However, despite these noble efforts, warlord Muhammad Farah Aidid relentlessly attacked United Nations personnel, defying all attempts to stabilize the situation. In response to this continuous harassment, Operation Gothic Serpent, later known to history as the Battle of Mogadishu, was launched with the ultimate goal of capturing or neutralizing Aidid and his top commanders. On October 3rd, based on valuable intelligence gathered about a secret meeting between Aidid and his lieutenants at the Olympic Hotel, Task Force Ranger, an elite unit comprised of members from the 75th Ranger Regiment, Delta Force operators, professional helicopter crews from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and other Special Forces personnel, launched a swift mission dubbed Snatch and Grab. The original plan was designed to be completed in just 30 minutes, but then everything quickly spiraled out of expected control, transforming a simple mission into an unforeseen chaotic ordeal. Precisely at 16:40, as all attention was focused on the first downed helicopter, the situation suddenly took a turn for the worse. Just about 20 minutes later, another RPG round unexpectedly struck a different Black Hawk, designated Super 64, piloted by the talented Chief Warrant Officers Mike Durant and Ray Frank. The round destroyed the aircraft's tail rotor, although the helicopter initially managed to stay aloft. After only a few moments, the rotor assembly completely disintegrated, sending Super 64 spiraling and plummeting to the ground. The falling aircraft crashed violently into a group of huts before coming to an abrupt halt. At the moment of impact, Durant was knocked unconscious. When he regained his senses sometime later, he saw Ray Frank sitting by the door of the crashed Black Hawk, attempting to push himself out. That was the last time he would see his co-pilot. The fate of the remaining crew members remained unknown. Durant was unable to move. The impact had fractured his femur and crushed several of his vertebrae. Resigned to his fate, he quietly took off his helmet, gloves, and watch for no specific reason he could explain. Then prepared to defend himself as best he could with his MP5, awaiting the worst. It was in that desperate hour that he received unexpected help. Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, born in 1960 in Lincoln, Maine, joined the Army at the age of 18. After serving with the 10th Special Forces Group, he transferred to the elite Delta Force. Alongside him was Sergeant First Class Randy Shughart. Born in 1958 in Lincoln, Nebraska, he enlisted in the Army while still in high school, later earning his prestigious Ranger tab before leaving the service. He would re-enlist as a Ranger and was subsequently assigned to Delta Force. During Operation Gothic Serpent, both men were assigned the crucial task of maintaining an airborne position aboard the Black Hawk designated Super 62, providing sniper cover for the ongoing operation below. When Super 64 was shot down, most attention was directed towards reaching the site of the previously downed Super 61. However, a large number of Somali militia began to converge around the wreckage of Super 64. A relief column was dispatched, but was repelled by fierce resistance, similar to another force sent from the 10th Mountain Division. At 1642, realizing that no other forces could assist the downed Black Hawk, Gordon and Shughart made a bold request. They asked to be inserted to protect the survivors. This request was initially denied, with commanders stating they would be more useful continuing to provide air cover. Furthermore, the prospect of 2 Delta snipers against a massive force that seemed like half the city was understood by everyone to be a nearly suicidal mission. They requested a second time, knowing that with each passing moment, the chances of survival for the trapped crew were slipping away. Finally, after their third request, their proposal was approved. Super 62 landed approximately 100 meters from the crash site, and Shughart and Gordon immediately leaped out. A third member of their team, Sergeant First Class Brad Hallings, remained aboard the Black Hawk. He courageously took up position at the door-mounted minigun, providing air cover for his comrades, or replacing the wounded crew chief. Upon reaching the site, Gordon and Shughart quickly moved Mike Durant out of the helicopter and arranged the other crew members into a defensive perimeter as best they could. Although there are some reports that some had already succumbed to their injuries before the Delta snipers arrived. Durant, at the time, was convinced that a convoy or rescue helicopter would pick them up immediately, but this was not the case. Super 62 continued to circle the crash site, Hallings wielding the minigun to provide maximum suppressive fire. However, this Black Hawk also soon took hits from an RPG and small arms fire. Hallings suffered a leg amputation, and both the pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Mike Goffina, and co-pilot Jim Yacone were severely wounded, with critical damage to the helicopter. They were forced to withdraw from the fight, leaving Gordon and Shughart to face a massive wave of enemies alone. Without this air cover, Gordon and Shughart had to rely entirely on their personal weapons to fight off what seemed like the city's entire military force. As members of Delta Force, they had much more leeway in choosing their weapons than regular soldiers. Gordon opted for a CAR-15, a short-barreled version of the M16, chambered in 5.56. Shughart, on the other hand, desired something with more substantial power, so he went into battle with an M14, a much older battle rifle, but with the superior advantage of being chambered in 7.62, which offered significantly more stopping power. He also equipped it with a simple aiming point sight to improve his accuracy. These, along with their sidearms, were the only things protecting the downed Black Hawk at that moment. The subsequent sequence of events remains largely unclear, as Mike Durant was the sole surviving witness. However, what is certain is that Gordon and Shughart fought fiercely and valiantly, resolutely holding back the Somalis despite being vastly outnumbered. Their superior marksmanship skills, honed through rigorous training, made them incredibly effective shots, but the sheer number of enemies confronting them forced both men to expend their ammunition at an astonishing rate. Durant, despite his severe injuries, did what he could with his MP5. The battle raged on as ammunition began to run critically low. In the midst of the intense firefight, they rummaged through the crashed Black Hawk, collecting every round and functional weapon they could get their hands on. But it was not enough. Frantic calls for help crackled over the radio, and there were some indications that a reaction force was en route. But this support never materialized. By 1740, what happened next remains a subject of controversy. Official reports claim that Shughart was killed first, and Gordon then handed Durant his rifle with the last few remaining rounds. However, other accounts suggest that Gordon was hit first, and Durant was given a CAR-15, which raises doubts, as it's highly unlikely Shughart would give away his prized M14. Furthermore, at least one witness remembers hearing Shughart over the radio at that point. Regardless of the exact truth, one of the two brave soldiers fell, and the other picked up his fallen comrade's rifle, handing it to the paralyzed Durant. He simply said, "Good luck," and then turned back to the fight. Just a few moments later, Durant heard Shughart cry out in pain, and then silence fell. Unofficial reports estimate the 24 Somali fighters were killed by Gordon and Shughart during their final stand, with many more enemies wounded. Though these numbers are impossible to definitively confirm, the mass of Somalis then swarmed over the crash site, and Mike Durant was taken captive. He was fortunately released 2 weeks later for their extraordinary courage and willingness to sacrifice themselves to save their fellow soldiers. Master Sergeant Gary Gordon and Sergeant First Class Randy Shughart were posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the first recipients of this esteemed medal since the Vietnam War. Additionally, they received numerous other accolades, including having a training area at the Joint Readiness Training Center, named in their honor. Throughout that brutal battle, 18 Americans lost their lives, and many more were wounded.